Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Phrase at a Time. I'm Andy. We're going to talk about a quote today from a wonderful writer by the name of Kahlil Gibran, who wrote a book called The Prophet in 1923. Kahlil Gibran lived a rather short life, actually. He was born in 1883 and died in 1931. But during his short time on the planet, he had a great impact. He was a writer and a philosopher. So in this book, The Prophet, what he is doing is that the plot, if you like, is there's this individual in the communities of the time who is a very wise man and has, kind of like you might call the Oracle of Delphi from the old Greek times. Someone that people want to go to and consult for advice and for ideas about how to live what the Greek philosopher Socrates would have called the good life, or the virtuous life, or we could even call it the proper life. So he would go about, and people would maybe stop him in the communities and ask him questions. And he would try to do his best to convey the wisdom that he had accumulated across his life. So this was the plot and the essential story of the storyline, if you like, of the prophet. Very similar in some ways to the life of Jesus, except that the prophet was a fictional character and Jesus is a historical character. Nonetheless, there's a lot of similarities. So he is walking one day and he gets stopped, as often happened, by a young lady. And as often happened when he was walking around, there's a gathering with him. Maybe several people, 25, 30 people with him. And the young lady has a babe in her arms. She's just had a child, and she's holding the child in her arms. And she says, "Master, speak to us of children." And he says this, amongst some other things. I'm going to read a little bit of the poem, and then we'll talk about it. So she says to him, "Master, speak to us of children." And he says this. He says, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams." And those are the words of Kahlil Gibran, published in 1923 in the book The Prophet. And it's interesting because I think, in the sort of modern context, we can almost hear saying those words, and you might have a tendency to react and say, "What do you mean they're not my children? I mean, whose children are they? We did a DNA test, and it's my DNA, so they're my kids. They're not somebody else's kids." You can almost see, I'm not saying everybody, but there might be people who react that way. What do you mean? Are you saying that they don't belong to me? Well, of course, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying essentially is your children. Of course, they're your children in the sense that you have to bring them up, you have to take responsibility, you're going to have to probably pay some money for them to go to college, or, long before that, you're going to have to, pay for their food and their housing, and you're going to have to give them advice about how to live, and give them girlfriend and boyfriend advice, and sit down and have the talk about the birds and the bees, and all of these kinds of things. So, of course, they're your children. But what he's saying is, they're not your children, in the sense that what you really are doing as a parent is more like a stewardship, if you like. You are facilitating their growth into the best human beings they can be. And that doesn't mean you live through your children. We probably all know some people, and maybe all of us have done it to some extent. It's like, I want you to go out there and achieve all these things that I didn't achieve so that I can live my life through you and feel wonderful. And of course, that's exactly what he's saying we shouldn't be doing. We're not here to live through our children. They are your children, but they're not your children. In other words, the responsibility piece, if you like, is yours. The nurturing piece is yours. the financial piece of the things that you need to give them, to house them, to clothe them, to protect them. The protection piece also is yours. Yet they are individuals. And they don't really come from you. When they come from life's longing, if you, as he says in the poem, from life's longing for itself, what is that? That is ancestry over hundreds of thousands of years of the human species. That is the growth that we have as human beings. As Newton once said, what was it? He said, if I have seen far than most men, it is only by standing on the shoulders of giants. It's that intergenerational thing that we get, and also from God, also from the higher power, if you like. It doesn't really matter what you believe religiously. Certainly we can all understand that the essence of a child is much more than the child's parents. And the child will, in many cases, live to far outshine their parents, or perhaps the opposite. But the point is that that child is an individual in and of themselves, has a soul, has a developmental trajectory that is theirs and theirs alone. And also, when you have children, you have to, my mother once said something to me about what motherhood was like. She said, son, hold fast, but with open arms. And what does that mean? It really means the same thing as this. Hold fast, better be careful of my mic there. Hold fast means you protect and you take care because that's your role as the parent. But with open arms means that you're willing to let the child go out into the world and take risks and make mistakes and do the best they can. And you're there as like home base, if you like, that you will be there to protect them, you'll be there to help them, but not always, because eventually they're going to be off on their own. So you're always looking at it from the point of view that it's their life. And you have to let them make mistakes. And that's not always easy, to sit there and watch your child make a mistake and maybe get hurt. I'm not talking about, one of my sons, who is my video man, so he's going to be sitting there and probably smile as I say this. For the first 3 or 4 years of his life, my youngest son spent every day trying to see if he could kill himself. He ran in front of every available car, and he, if he saw a motorcycle, he tried to stick his hand in the wheels when it was moving or whatever. So this is sort of his philosophy of life. Of course, it wasn't really his philosophy. He just didn't know what was going on, didn't understand the dangers. So obviously, Kahlil Gibran is not talking about that. He's not saying, let them go out and kill themselves when they're 3 years old. That's, of course, I know I'm being a bit ridiculous to make a point. But what it is saying is that you have to realize that as a parent, you mostly have a responsibility side. And it's a heavy one. It's really heavy. But you don't really have a projection side, which some parents think they do. Like, I want my son to go to the same university I went to, or I'm a doctor, so he has to be a doctor, or, I never achieved this, so I want him to achieve this. That's not really part of it. They're individuals. They get to go out in the world on their own and take their chances, and you're there to encourage that. Yes, you should encourage them to be the best they can be. No, you shouldn't encourage them to take an unethical path that's wrong, and you should try to steer them away from those things. Of course, those are all part of the responsibility piece, but the projection piece, if you like, isn't there. And this is what I think Kahlil Gibran in this poem is cautioning against. He's saying, take care of the responsibility piece. Take care of your children. Be a good mother. Be a good father. But they must be allowed to fly on their own wings, take their own chances, make their own mistakes, go out there and do the things that they want to try. And it's not for you to tell them outside of a small range of trying to help them be ethical and not, my son's going to become a bank robber. No, that probably don't encourage that. Okay, so outside of that small range, though, of trying to keep them being ethical and trying to help them become good human beings, as a parent, you don't really have much other involvement as they get older. Maybe when they get younger, but as they get older, that side of it becomes less and less of an issue, and you basically take the responsibility piece and you let them grow and you let them develop and you encourage them, but they have to take their own path. And the thing is, if you don't do that, the day will come when they might hate you, and also you might severely damage their future and their development, and none of us wants that. Of course, we all love our children and we all want the best for our children, and that is where I think Kahlil Gibran, whose words can be helpful to all of us as parents. I'm going to leave it there for now. I would encourage you, please, if you enjoy the video, please like the video, share the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, and we'll leave it there for today. Blessings and thank you.